Hi again, this is Zach Gimignani from Juice Analytics and author of the book Data Fluency. I want to share another of our design principles for creating great data products. In this case, we're going to focus on how we choose meaningful and actionable metrics. In our consulting experience, it's common for a company to have built up an enormous list of metrics they feel are important to track for their own internal operations or on behalf of their customers. But at what point can we still call these key metrics? When one client, a large insurance company, showed us the 147 metrics they wanted to track, that had gone way beyond any reasonable definition of key. Many years ago, I arrived at this framework for evaluating what an organization should focus on measuring. The best metrics meet all of these four criteria. First, they're actionable, in that the metric links logically to an action that should be taken if the value goes up, down, or is not meeting a goal. Secondly, there should be a common interpretation, that is, a shared understanding within the organization of what the value of the metric means. Sometimes it takes some effort to educate people about that meaning. Thirdly, there should be a transparency to that metric. How you arrive at the valuable should be understandable. It isn't a number that pops out of a black box. Finally, a good metric is something that you can actually measure. It's possible to gather the necessary data. With that, I want to share an example from another Juice data product where we made an effort to show only the most meaningful metrics. Let's take a look at a few different applications where we made an effort to show only the most meaningful and actionable metrics. In each of these cases, it's a little hard to show you the behind-the-scenes effort that it took to narrow down from where we started with a lot of different metrics to just a few of the most actionable, useful things that we could show on the screen. But what I do want to highlight for you are different strategies that we have as we lay out these metrics, show them to make it very easy for someone to be able to explore and look at the things that are most important to them. In this case, we're looking at university research data around awards and proposals, and where we started with a number of different metrics around conversion rates and people involved and the different ways that we could slice and dice this data. We did break it down to just a couple different areas: the proposals, the efforts to get the grants, and then the actual grant awards themselves. And one of the important strategies as we lay this out on the screen is to be able to lay out these metrics in a way that they have some logical order to them. So you can see there's a row that's about proposals, the proposals and the total proposal grant dollars, and then a separate row for the awards. And then you'll see that we're lining up both the dollar amounts and the volume of grants themselves. And off to the side are the expenditure dollars that are taken to that are associated with actually following up on those awards. So we have a little bit of a grid here to lay out these metrics, and we've tried to keep it down to as few metrics as possible. Here's another example. And in this case, we're looking at the knowledge of people in hospitals in terms of their safety, their understanding of safety issues. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of ways that we can measure their knowledge. But we made a real effort in this data product to roll that information all the way up into an overall score. This was really important for our client and for the users of this application, so they could get a very quick understanding of a top-level measure of their knowledge score, 78.6 in this case, and then be able to compare that to a benchmark. So all the underlying metrics roll up to an overall starting point. And then below that, you'll see that we have that same overall score, but then we have ways that we're breaking out that score by different areas of knowledge. And by putting all of these metrics on the same scale, you'll see on the left here, we can start to compare those metrics to each other, just as we're comparing each individual score to a benchmark, and in this case, the yellow area is to a goal. So we're making 6 different measures that you might be looking at this level. We're making it very easy to compare across those. So that's another strategy that's going to make it easier to take a number of different actionable measures and let someone be able to digest that information easily. Finally, I want to show you an example where it became very hard to eliminate all the different metrics. There were a lot of different measures. This is actually a view of the scores that people have on CPR simulation exercises. And there are a lot of different ways to measure how people perform on those exercises. And all of those different ways are important because we're trying to find where people are struggling to learn in doing the CPR. But the way we manage a large number of metrics is try to put them into a logical structure so you can see how the numbers connect together. So in this case, there's an overall score, and then there are 3 underlying scores that roll up to that overall score: the compression, flow fraction, and ventilation. And then there are factors that roll up to those levels as well. So under a compression score, there are a whole bunch of different ways that we can measure the simulation that will give you that overall compression score. There's a lot of different ways that we're measuring things. We don't want to be able to, we can't throw out metrics in this case, because be able to see some of these low scoring areas is really critical for the analysis. But we put it into a hierarchical structure in this way that allows a viewer of this information to see the relationship and still be able to find the things that they might want to focus on.